Alright guys, so you've just received your brand new Riptide bike. Today we're going to take you through the step-by-step process on how to get it out of the box, unpack it, and then a step-by-step on how to assemble it so that your bike is ready to go and fully operational. Alright, so the first step is to get the bike out of the box. So you're going to need to get some sort of a trusty knife here. Remember, get a grown-up to do this for you at home, kids. Safety first. But we're going to remove the straps. Once you've got the top of your box open, you can see in the top here you've got your seat, you've got your fenders, you can put those aside for now. And then also on this side we've got the box which contains a charger, accessories, some tools and everything else. So we'll put that one aside too. And then the next step is you probably want to get a mate in to come and help you lift this out of the box. Alright, so as you can see, once you've got it out of the box, the bike's nicely packaged with foam and bubble wrap and everything to keep it all protected. The one we're doing today is our new mint finish as well, so you're going to be getting one of your first looks at this awesome new colour that we do the Riptide in. So let's just get rid of that stuff. Now your first step then, next step, is to cut the zip ties that are holding this front wheel on, as well as we'll go around and remove all the zip ties and other foam packaging as well. Alright, so as you can see, we've got all the packaging off the bike, just apart from these ones on the handlebars. I've left them on to protect that while we do the assembly. We've also got all of our other pieces that were attached to the bike. I've laid those all out here. Now, also you'll find this smaller box attached to the bike. In here are your pedals. You'll also find your headset cap. This goes on top of here once we assemble the stem and the handlebars. You get a little bag of spare bolts and screws. This one here is your charger. You also get this toolkit here, all nicely packaged, and then you'll also find all your owner's manual and other documentation inside as well. And then also on the table here, you'll find we've got our seat post, our stem that attaches the handlebars to the bike, the seat, front fender, battery, and the front wheel. Now in today's video, we are cheating a little bit. We're using a professional bike stand. Don't worry if you don't have a bike stand though, you will still be able to assemble your bike without it. Just procedure-wise, start by putting the front wheel on, then you can actually stand the bike up on the kickstand, and that'll allow you to complete the rest of the assembly. But for today's video, because we have the bike stand, we're going to put the handlebars in first so it squares those away. Now to install your handlebars, get your stem that was included, as well as the headset cap. And essentially, with your headset cap in place, just slide your stem down into there. And then it's just a matter of removing this grey cap that's in the top of the stem. Now that you've got your stem inserted, grab a 6mm Allen wrench and tighten the stem down firmly. Once you're happy with how firm the stem is, just replace the grey cap that goes up in here. Now with your same 6mm Allen wrench, remove these two bolts from the top of the stem, and this will allow you to then grab your handlebars and pop those into place. Now just be sure to keep your brake lines and all the cables towards the front of the handlebars. Now once you're happy with where your handlebars are sitting, replace that top cap and reinstall the two bolts. Now as you're tightening the two bolts, we'll just make sure that your handlebars are nicely centered as well. As you tighten them down bit by bit. So don't just tighten one all the way down, you sort of tighten the back one, tighten the front one, tighten the back one, and then as you're tightening them down to be firm, just make sure you're alternating between the two so that you get a nice even grip on those handlebars. All right, so the next step we're going to do is install the front fender, which will allow us to also put the front wheel on. Okay, so to be able to install the front fender, we first need to remove the headlight. To do this, you'll need a 4mm Allen wrench and an 8mm spanner. And so you put the spanner on the back, over the nut that's on there, and we loosen off this Allen bolt at the front. Okay, be careful not to drop any of the nuts or the washers that are included with this. Remove that bolt completely, and you can just let the headlight dangle for now. All right, now the order that this fender goes on is you've got your bolt with the washer on the front from before. Smaller part goes at the front, the longer part goes towards at the back of the fork, and the headlight goes in between. So essentially I've got to get the headlight against the frame. This bolt then threads through this front piece of the fender, through the headlight, through the fork, and then out the back. Now just take your Allen wrench and spanner from before and tighten that bolt down again firmly. All right, so the next step is to install the front wheel. So to get this on there, what we need to do is insert it up into the fork while also lining up the disc rotor here into the caliper. So now we're just going to line up this rotor into the caliper, and also while getting the axles onto the fork, make sure that this washer goes on the outside. We then take a 15mm wrench and we tighten those nuts down. Now that you've got your front wheel on, you may notice that your front fender isn't looking very even and may actually be rubbing on the tyre. So this is where we grab our Allen wrench and spanner from before that we used to install it. We'll loosen that off and we'll adjust it so that it's nice and even. Okay, so we're literally going to loosen this off just a fraction, just enough so that we can get some movement out of it. And then once we can move things around here, we'll just sort of visually inspect and adjust. Make sure our fender's nice and even. Now, once you've visually sighted your fender and you're happy with its position, you can quite often then get something like another wrench, wedge that underneath, which will hold it in place while you tighten the whole thing down again. And just make sure that your headlight is also nice and straight too. Okay, next we're going to install our pedals. You'll notice that these are labelled as left and right, so make sure that you install those on the correct side. And also the left-hand side pedal is reverse threaded, so just be sure when you're doing that one up, you're actually tightening it the opposite direction. When you're putting your pedals in, just gently start the thread. Just be careful not to cross-thread them. And then once you've got it going, you can then grab a 15mm spanner and make sure you tighten these down firmly. Now then, when we start the left pedal, just keep in mind, this is the reverse threaded one. So we actually start this off in an anti-clockwise direction. And just like the other side, we tighten this one firmly. So just to cover that one again, right-hand side pedal, threads in clockwise, left-hand side pedal, threads in anti-clockwise. Now we're going to attach the front part of the rear rack onto these two bolts located at the back of the frame. All right, now to do this, grab your 4mm Allen wrench and we'll just remove the bolt all the way out. Be careful not to drop the washer. Now once you've taken the bolt out, you want to just adjust and move your rear rack to align these two holes on the rack and the frame, and then reinstall the bolt, making sure you keep the washer on the outside. And now we're just going to do that same thing on the other side. Now once you've got the second bolt installed on the other side, we can also adjust the angle that the rack sits on by loosening off these nuts located here. But this one's looking pretty straight to me, so all we're going to do is tighten down these last bolts here and make sure they're nice and firm. All right, so our next step is to install the seat. So for that, grab your seat pole and grab a 6mm Allen wrench. Now you'll see on your seat pole here, there's this bolt that you loosen off, and that will allow you to get it mounted onto these two rails on your seat. So with that loosened off, I can spin the bottom half 90 degrees. That allows us to get underneath the rails on the seat to mount that. Once you're happy with the placement of the seat pole on the seat, just firmly tighten that down. All right, now to put the seat in, just loosen the quick release here, and we'll slide this seat pole down into our preferred height. Now that we've got that in, I can see that the angle of our seat is pointing a bit too high. So what we're going to do is pull this out again, and we'll loosen off the bolt on the seat pole and we'll adjust the angle. So once you've loosened your seat pole off, you see you can actually adjust the angle of that pole. So we'll move that more towards the front, and let's tighten that down again. All right, now we'll put the seat back in, making sure we go past that minimum insert line, but that will be way beyond our comfortable height. I kind of like that one. And let's tighten down the quick release and make sure that that is nice and firm, because you don't want that pole giving way while you're riding. All right, now the bike is starting to look pretty much finished and fully assembled, but there's just a few last minute checks and things to tighten that we're going to go over. So some really important ones that you want to pay attention to is tightening your axle bolts, your calipers, the bolts on the disc, on both the front and rear. Make sure you cover those front and rear. As well as we're going to go in and we're going to make sure that these crank bolts are really, really firm and tight, as well as the bolts on the kickstand. All right, now that we've gone around, we've completed all the final checks and tightening all the bolts on the bike, we're going to take it down off the stand and we'll do some adjustments of the handlebars. Now, just some final adjustments here is we're going to make sure that both our display, brake levers, as well as the shifter are all in a position that's comfortable for us to ride. So you just go around and just make sure that they're exactly where you want them. Okay, now that we've got everything on the handlebars adjusted to just the way we like them, if we wanted to, we can also adjust the height and angle of the handlebars here and here, but I like it where it is right now, so we're just going to leave it. Now, the final thing you need to do before you can take the bike out for a ride is to inflate the tyres, pump them up to our recommended 28 PSI, and you'll be ready to go. So yeah, looks like this bike's pretty much good to go now. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up our assembly video of the Riptide bike. If there's any other queries or questions you have, you can either leave those down in the comments or just contact us directly.